All right, welcome everyone. Hello and welcome to a special Zoom event presented by Two Sylvias Weekly Muse. I'm Kelli Russell Agodon, a co-founder of Two Sylvias Press. And joining me behind the scenes is Annette Spalding-Convey, my fellow co-founder. Tonight we are thrilled to welcome and celebrate poets Lana Hechtman Ayers and Danusha Laméris, two poets whose work we love, and both who have new books launching and brand new books. And I think Danusha's comes out tomorrow. Lana's book is the Autobiography of RAIN, and it's published by Fernwood Press. And Danusha's book, Blade by Blade, is in transit to me. Oh, good, there it is. Danusha's got it. And it releases from Copper Canyon Press tomorrow. So I'm just going to give two quick bios to Lana and Danusha and then pass the evening over to them. I'm going to include links to their books and their full bios in the chat, along with how to become a subscriber to Two Sylvias Weekly Muse if you aren't. That's a resource that Annette and I write every week, and we send it to your inbox. Sunday morning, it's got poetry prompts, exercises, interviews, places to submit your work, and we've added also you receive a year of Zoom classes, and we will have the wonderful Danusha teaching a class for us this Thursday. So our first reader tonight is going to be Lana Hechtman Ayers. Lana is a cat mama, a dog mama, a sky watcher, a recovering coffee addict, a former New Yorker, and writes in a room over her garage in Oregon. She leads generative workshops, helps poets assemble their manuscripts, which she is amazing at, and manages 3 small presses where she's fostered over 130 books into the world. I'm going to put her website in our chat. It's lanaayers.com. And Lana is experiencing what a lot of us in the Northwest are experiencing lately, which are internet issues. So if she disappears or vanishes or that, it's all part of the grand scheme and the plan, and she will come back as soon as she can. It will be an exciting evening with that. Our second reader will be Danusha Laméris, and her first book, The Moons of August, was chosen by Naomi Shihab Nye as the winner of the Autumn House Press Poetry Prize and was a finalist for the Milt Kessler Book Award. Her second book, Bonfire Opera, which is one of my favorite books in the world, was a finalist for the 2021 Patterson Poetry Prize and a recipient of the Northern California Book Award in Poetry. Danusha was the Poet Laureate of Santa Cruz County, California, and is currently on the faculty of Pacific Lutheran Low-Res MFA program. And as we said, her newest book, Blade by Blade, will be out in the next day from Copper Canyon Press, and I cannot wait to hold my copy. I will have my copy by the time her class comes on Thursday. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Lana, and we'll get going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Two Sylvias, Annette, and Kelli for inviting me. It's a delight and an honor to read with the incomparable Danusha. And thank you to all your viewers. No poem is ever complete without a listener or a reader. My collection from Fernwood Press is dedicated to the memory of poet Patricia Fagnoli. Pat was an early poetry mentor who became my biggest cheerleader and dear friend. Without her encouragement, none of my books would exist. So I would actually like to start this reading with a poem from her book, Necessary Light, which won the May Sarton Prize. And it's her first book of poems, still in print, which is an amazing feat. From 1999, you can get a brand spanking new copy. And I'm going to read the poem in her book, the first one, and it's called How This Poet Thinks. I don't think like lawyers, quick in the mind, rapid as rat-a-tat-tat, or academics who pile logic up like wood to get them through winter. I think the way someone listens in a still place for the sound of quiet, or the way my body sways at the transition zone back and forth between field and woods, a witching stick, or as though I were inhabiting the seasons between winter and spring, between summer and fall, finding those in-between places that need me to name them. When I think, sometimes it is like objects running through a tunnel, and sometimes it is like water in a well with dirt sides, where the wetness is completely absorbed and the ground rings with dampness, becomes a changed thing. Other times, it is the way sea fog rises off the swelling green of the ocean and covers everything, but illuminates itself. I think with my skin open like the frog who takes in rain by osmosis. I delve into the groundhog holes where no words follow. Slow, so slow, I think and cannot hold the thoughts except when they come down hard on the paper, where they are malleable, can be shifted, worked at like clay. I think like this, with my brainstem, with the sight of emotions, the way I imagine the fox thinks, trapped in his present need, but moving freely, his eyes quick toward the day's desire, and the way, beneath the surface of the water, the swimmer's legs hang down above the tendrils of the jellyfish, which wave in filtered light. I think in tortoise time, dream time, limbic time, like a waterfall, a moth's wing, like snow, that soundless, that white. So I highly recommend everyone to get a copy of Necessary Light. It's just one of those books I have to keep returning to again and again. And my first poem is an after poem. I write a lot of after poems because great poems inspire. And I believe all poems are in correspondence with other poems. As Gregory Orr puts it, every poem different, but telling the same story. So my first poem is How This Poet Thinks, after Patricia Fargnoli. I think like a person with split brain hemispheres, Arctic blue, logical left brain requiring sense, order, fast forward, while my cottony right mind ruminates at a glacial pace, indecisive, Mobius, cumulus drift. I think like a crow stalking the grass, flapping, jawing, all noise, all nonsense. Like a koi, poised, a flame burning beneath the still surface. Like a hurricane, gale force augmentative. I think like fog cloaking the coastal mountains, haze that softens the harsh edges of millennial rock. I think like an earthquake, sudden crash of plates, friction, a driving force. Like a nimbus cloud, ideas crystallized, condensation, fluctuation, letting go of all that falling pressure. Like a lost doe wandered into suburbia, missing the shelter of forest overstory, easy prey for traffic, pot shots. I think like a poet whose words evaporate in August heat, whose pen leaks like antiquated plumbing, whose mind is split like a Thanksgiving wishbone, neither half lucky, but not unlucky either. My collection contains a lot of poems of loss, but redemption through writing, nature, and relationships. But the poems I'm reading here for you are ones that connect to writing and language. The title of this poem is a line from the poet Hafez. Poetry reveals there is no empty space. Out of the void, dishes, dust, screens, firefight, firefly, glimpses, tipsy kisses, too little, too much, lingering rosemary, cups of coffee, implicit threat, green rage, Stevie Wonder, Beethoven, Janis Joplin, the Kosciuszko Bridge, windows open wide, something unforgivable, traffic, too hot, too cold, weight squarely in my body, wooden spoon, stream, salt of grief, loneliness, barking dog, pearls, pencils, hand stirring the pot, books, wind, rain furrows, moonrise, alchemy, edgelessness, yawns. It was a Monday. So the story behind this poem is, when in doubt of what you want to write about, make a list of things you've encountered or thought that day. I'm a really big fan of list poems for that reason. This poem is a true story. Ode to my Stellar's Jay. I call you mine, but no one can possess a creature so prepossessing. Cerulean slew of tail feathers, azure arabesques of wing feathers, wild emo, that slick punk column of black razoring atop your head, iridescent onyx nape, satin sable cape. For months, you come to me at 10 a.m. like an obad of luck, the best idea I hadn't yet had. Perching on the deck rail outside my office window, you tilt your head, looking in at me as if we are in this together, this try for beauty. You and your effortless, startling grace, me troubling the clean pages of a notebook to express with messy black and blue inks what you do naturally. Brush stroke the landscape of life with brightness. Even in this Pacific Northwest cavalcade of gray days and endless rain, offer affirmation to unfix the eye so focused on despair. When you tire of looking at me, you leap away, a single squawk into whatever your day's adventures. Smear into atmosphere Aegean mermaid blur, supernatural being one only imagines can truly exist. For months and months, it's you and me, morning trysts where I'm held as gleam in the obsidian beads of your eyes, making me believe I can craft something merely half as glorious as you are. One August morn, you fail to arrive, nor the next, and I pray you're still alive, not radiant prey of some alley cat or giggling eagle. Months lope along without you, and in my listless notebook, lines cross lapisless, my being at a loss for alluring language. I look up to the sky, I look down to the sea. They can never be blue enough. Sadly, my husband and I seem to find ourselves needing to move every 3 to 5 years. This poem is called House Hunting. We're looking for something spacious as the interior of a poem, so roomy you can get lost in its images. hallways that roam along to unexpected turns of phrase. We're hoping to find something close to all the conveniences. Fresh air perfumed with meter, trees that tossle their limbs seductively in breezes, hills curvaceous as villanelles. We're searching for a place that fits our personalities, a kitchen of clean steam and courtesy, delectable soups and sestinas bubbling on the stove, a bath where unsullied truth freely flows from all the taps, a bedroom that masters the art of moon phases and meteors. We're seeking a home we can fill with blankets, dog fur, cat fur, the enjambment of too many books. A home that will hold steady looks, silly, askance glances, even a few crosswords once in a while. A home that weathers moods well, the way streams wear every broken rock down to pebbles shine. We don't mind winding avenues of rhyme and have no preference about windows so long as they're always wide and wise. We don't care for one-way stares, though being able to stare at a view of empathy is essential. We want a home in which light is as bright as the scent of lavender, a home where the sound of rain on the roof is our heart's sonnet as our arms reach for one another in the night. And we want a home where the silence, however rare, is always and ever holy. And I don't know about you, call me crazy, but the moon talks to me a lot. This poem is called Opera. The voice in my head is the moon's. She says the looniest things, that butterfly wings are made of space-time, and the eyes of cows are magnetic north. I query her about other mysteries of the universe, but it's as if she's not listening, just intones whatever she wants. Every fire is the alphabet backwards. Once the moon woke me from a dream screaming, "The windows can't breathe, the windows can't breathe." It's true, my windows are smudged with dirt, but am I murdering them? When the moon is silent and my pen reaches for a metaphor, I mourn her absence. She will not come when summoned. My stomach growling long after dinner, the moon calls out over the noise. The stars are sweet as sugar. As I am wandering, lost in unanswerable quandaries, the moon reminds me each blade of grass is its own encyclopedia. The crow is a magician of night sky, she whispers, as I lie awake in bed, unable to unsquelch the volume of silence. If there's a pattern in the randomness of her revelations, I've yet to uncover it. When I'm feeling grumpy, I hear, "Mountains are jealous of the birds. The wind is envious of the trees." I want to see the world with the moon's romantic vision, but it's difficult to reject science. Moths are the guardians of starlight. The sea is gravity's true love. Rain is God's opera. And this last poem I'll read is after Wendell Berry's poem called Manifesto, and my poem is titled Creed. I have sworn prayers in the chapel of poetry, a faith whose answers abound in every language, whose questions abundant as rain, fertile the earth. Each morning, my waking prayer is different. Today, Wendell Berry tracks with fox paws. And before I go to sleep tonight, my own tired hands will muddy the notebook with nearly illegible hieroglyphics about serrated crow's wings shredding dusk. Faith is a metaphor for ocean, but also a simile for sorrow. This afternoon, seated in the last pew of the forest, cedar boughs wave their needled branches against uncompromising sky, like beseeching arms of yet another mother whose child was felled by violence. I wonder if I have chosen my religion wisely. Fidelity to the images words create makes me vulnerable to hope. The air howls and pounds, and I can't tell if it's the wind or the sound of my heart throbbing in my head. The news is grave. Sunlight seems like forever. Earth will survive us, heal for millennia until the scars humanity made are greened over. For now, all I want to do is pray day and night. Pablo Neruda, Emily Dickinson, Warson Shire, Langston Hughes, Alison Luterman, Patricia Fagnoli, Richard Blanco, Maya Angelou. I want to trust in the art of language, how remarkably words mirror our unbearable beauty that struggles, yet rises and rises to the surface of love. Thank you. I'm happy to hand the reins of this reading over now to Danusha, who's not only an amazing poet, but I have to say has the most brilliant analytical mind, full of insights into all the ways poems can work their magic for us. Danusha.
Thank you so much, Lana, and thank you for that beautiful reading. I wrote down little notes to myself, and one says, hills curved as villanelles. It's just sitting on my desk now. Just such a beautiful image. I'm going to change to a gallery here so I can see all of you. There we go. It's like to see everybody's faces that I can. And welcome. And just thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Kelli, and thanks, Annette, for hosting and creating this community. And I'm going to try to read poems that are only in here. It's always tempting to jump around or read something new, but I'm going to see if I can just read from Blade by Blade this evening. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start also with an animal or creature poem. And have you ever had, I was asking folks this at a reading I did recently, have you ever had a creature that just keeps showing up wherever you are? I see a lot of nodding, and it's a very strange experience to have if you've not had it and then suddenly you do. And this happened to me again recently. I was going back to my rental car, and what was on the rental car on my door but a praying mantis. And for me, that's just kind of normal that I do things, but there's, bonus, there's a praying mantis. And this is kind of maybe a more ominous poem about that, but here it is. Praying mantis. At first, I saw it in my garden, clinging to the fence behind a rose bush. Later, it appeared beside me in the grass. This went on for weeks, a month. I can't be sure. I'd never seen one up close. Bright green, boggle-eyed, the odd, nearly automated movement. It seemed almost prescient, diviner, alien, priest. What would we know if our eyes could rotate behind as well as ahead. The roses were in bloom. Everything appeared as it should be. Grass trimmed, floors swept, a bowl of fruit on the kitchen table. My husband humming to himself as he walked from room to room. Everyone I loved was alive. Sometimes I felt those eyes press into the back of my neck, follow me as I weeded the yard. Then one day I woke up and it was on the ceiling, hind legs hooked into the canopy above the bed, poised, perfectly still, forelimbs held in that chronic gesture of supplication. It looked down at me, head cocked, a cool expression, clean and pitiless. Something about those. It's one of the few insects that will make eye contact with you. And there's something very disconcerting about that. And interestingly, when this one did appear on my car, it was right before the hurricane. I was in Virginia, about to fly down to North Carolina, called the airport, and they said, yeah, that's probably going to be canceled. And we ended up having to drive in, or choosing to drive in that car on the day of the storms. And so I don't know, maybe they are kind of a warning. At any rate, didn't hurt to see it that way and proceed with caution. Proceed with caution. All right, I'm going to read one called They Say the Heart, well, what I called, but They Say the Heart Wants. And for this one, it's a fun bonus if you've ever read the Pillow Book of Sei Shonagon or seen parts of it. Yes, people who know, their face lights up because it's so amazing. It's, I believe, it's an 11th century Japanese text that is kind of a diary of a woman who lives in the royal courts. And she just dishes. But a lot of it is, here are things that I love, here are things that make one feel irritated, here are things, it's sort of formal, but also kind of, I don't know, chatty how she writes it. So highly recommend. And there's just a bit of a reference to that pillow book in this poem. Not that that's what the poem's all about. They say the heart wants what it wants, but no one tells you what it gets. So here's a list, mine. Tall grasses blowing in the wind. Swirled glass cups, peacock blue, bought in Lebanon. Fog off the California cliffs. Dark boulders on the shore. Billie Holidays, I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places, cycling through my auditory cortex. Dogs pulling at the leash. Small white plates of wild grains and beets. The time a man kissed my hand when we met, then pressed my palm to his cheek. Sei Shonagon's 11th century list of things that give one a clean feeling. An earthen cup, a new metal bowl, a rush mat, the play of light on water as one pours it into a vessel, a new wooden chest, to which I add a drawer of beeswax candles, steam rising from a pot of tea. So much stored in the heart's farthest chambers. And though he's been dead for decades now, I still feel the kiss. My whole arm shivers with its half-life. I live in a place where there are fairly frequent disasters. I moved here to come to college, and the whole town collapsed within a month in a giant earthquake. I don't know if anyone lives in Santa Cruz or was around for that, but that happened. And then I think it was a couple years later, my whole neighborhood I grew up in burned down. And so we are accustomed here, as we are in many places now, to just sudden shifts in plot that sometimes mirror the other sudden shifts in our own, more intimate lives as well. Anyway, this is a poem I wrote kind of recently. It feels like I just wrote this. How's it in a book? It's called Construction. I remember downtown after the earthquake, piles of rubble, metal gates set up to corral us in the middle of the road so we wouldn't step on all that broken concrete, on pediments fallen from doorways, makeshift memorials to people who died under the debris. Sometimes you'd pass a building's facade held up with beams, the rest of the structure gone, an empty lot visible through the blown-out windows. I know that place. That's saving what I can. I lost my house, but I'm alive. Or okay, my brother died, but I'm living twice. No, 3 times. For me, for him, and for my son. I saved the front of the building, its delicate arches and raised friezes. I didn't hate it. You could still buy socks or get coffee in these giant tents that popped up in the ruins. That's aftermath for you. The way we keep on drinking out of little paper cups, walking through disaster in our brand new shoes for everyone who can't. Those disasters. And gosh, it's so weird to be reading from a book when it's new. I just have to say that because not that I don't know the poems in it, but I kind of don't know where they live in it. And it's just, you have to break it in, I think, over several months. And I'm having that breaking it in kind of feeling. So thanks for being here as part of it. And if you have questions for me or for Lana, don't hesitate to write them in the chat. You can even write question, and then we'll know to cycle back and see that. Because we love, I don't know, it's fun to hear what you all are thinking and wondering about too. All right, back to business. Cool. Last Friday, I went to a friend's house because her grandson was turning 1. And our surfer friend Vinty was there, and the friend's daughter, and all the husbands, and it must have been over 90 degrees. So hot, we had to nearly force ourselves to make our way up the dirt road to their pool, and I didn't have a swimsuit, so I stripped down to my skivvies, which were super see-through, and I didn't really even care. There were lemon trees growing alongside the pool like a hedge. So many lemons. And someone picked some for the baby, and he kept dunking them underwater and watching them bob back up with a pop, which made him so happy he would squeal. It was like that. Lemons, baby, hot sun, and barn swallows diving toward the water, skimming the surface to wet their claws so they could go build mud houses in the eaves. I kept thinking about the time when I was 3 and almost drowned at a friend's house. But the light coming through the water was so beautiful, I wasn't afraid. My parents talking, clinking glasses, while I sat on the bottom tiles and watched the diamonds shimmer. But then my friend's mom, who is Hawaiian, dove in and scooped me out with her strong arms. So I lived to be here decades later, watching a naked baby splash the surface with his palms in the 7th month of the year, in the late Anthropocene, everyone laughing and getting a little burned even beneath the brims of their sun hats. Lemons everywhere we look. I don't know why that made me feel just unreasonably happy to read. There's something about naked baby and lemons and birds and pool. Just so good. so much joy. Sometimes there's so much joy, isn't there? Even though, I always say, even though, there's so much joy, even though it shocks me sometimes. I have a poem I was going to read next, but maybe I'll change it. I will change it. Often we love best. Often we love best what is hidden. The locket, our initials etched entwined on the back. The wool coat's pink silk lining. The painting beneath a painting, its faint hills and far-off church. Last month, I bought a picture only to discover that when tipped to pour, it reveals a hidden message underneath. We love whatever is inscribed, whatever's whispered in the delicate shell of the ear. If not the forest, the idea of it. Dense, impenetrable, like the face of someone whose thoughts we might try and fail to discern, and whom, therefore, we desire. The lover whose kiss simmers on the back of the neck, but whose name we hold close to our breast. The privacy of the womb, its occupant a stirring beneath the palm. The Holy Grail because of its refusal to be found. Galaxies not yet seen, but guessed at, glimmering on the periphery of the universe. So why not the impossible to know? The shadowed days ahead, events only sketched on time's parchment, the fractured gift of age, its slow or quick diminishment, the last breath, and then after that. Yeah, let me see what I have in my environment. I was going to read a poem that it seems I didn't even bring into the room because it's not in the book. Okay, so I will just read one last short poem from the book. That's so funny. Oh, wait, no, I can read it on my phone. Can't I? Can't I do that? That's a thing that's available now in this modern age. Thanks for bearing with me. This is not in the book, that's true, but it's on my mind. It's easy to forget where you've been because something happens, then ends. Then something else happens and you forget what came before. You know how it is. Once you ate apples on the back porch, tossed the cores into the wet grass. Once you rode horses to a lookout high in the mountains into the underbelly of sky. Remember so-and-so? Remember when it used to rain in winter? Remember when you wore your hair short, dyed pink, pierced your ears all the way up the rim? You were someone else, who had also been someone else. And who will you be next? Today, I walked down the beach holding hands with a man who used to be a microscopic dot. Now he has a beard and plays guitar. I was microscopic too. But now someone says, Danusha, and I say, yes? Temporary. One day they will say cloud, and I will turn my head, not head, in answer. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing, both of you. Then I'm spotlighting us. Take some questions. Somebody wrote in the chat, the best 2 Zoom readings I've ever seen, and I agree.
Oh, lovely.
Really wonderful, Danusha and Lana. Thank you so much. And Lana, when you said your after poems, Lana is also teaching a class for Two Sylvias Weekly Muse on after poems, where we're going to write poems after other poems, and I'm excited about that. So thank you so much. If anyone has a question, if you want to, you can raise your hand and we can pull you in if you're feeling shy. Just put it in the chat, but we'd love to see your faces and bring you into the chat if you're open for it. And thank you both for releasing your book with us. I see Marisa has something. I'm going to pull her in. You want to unmute there? I'm going to add you in. I almost made you a co-host.
Okay, well, I could try to co-host. Hello, thank you for the beautiful reading, and hi, Kelly, and everyone. I think that one of the things that's so good for me about this reading from both of you is that Danusha, you put it into words, but I was feeling the joy of what you were both reading about. And as a poet, I will let you know that I have a hard time writing toward joy or finding ways to put it on the page. And I wonder if there is if it is a thing that comes just very naturally to you, or if there is a seeking after or something that you actually make yourself do to get to that place for that writing. Anything you could help.
Oh, I love that question. Lana, did you have something that you wanted to say right away, or?
Well, it's funny because, you know, my mentor, Patricia Fargnoli, dubbed me the poet of grief. And to me, she was the poet of joy. But I think it's really, it doesn't come naturally for me, honestly. I think it's really difficult to speak about the things we love. It's more difficult, you know, than writing about the things that cause us stress and despair. And I don't know why that is, but for me, that's definitely true, as it is for you, Marissa. I think what it is, what helps me, and it's one of the things I talked about, is, you know, list poems. I make lists all the time, and just finding my list of things that I'm grateful for within the day, just finding a list of things that I'm grateful for when I go to bed at night. You know, I try to think about all the good things that happened in a day before I go to bed at night, because I'm somebody that has stress dreams every night. And I think, well, that will help. And it's, you know, I just find it really hard. And the other thing is what I said is, you know, the after poems. When I read a poem of joy, you know, the kinds of poems that like Danusha has written, and Patricia Fargnoli has written, and so many others. I mean, so many great poems of joy. It inspires me to reach for what in me I know is worth hoping for, is worth keeping alive, is worth sharing with others. So I don't know if that's helpful.
It is. Thank you. Especially what you were saying there at the end. Thank you.
Yeah. I just thought she said that so beautifully. And I think that I'm always looking for contrasts, or what Mark Doty calls contraries. So I write a lot about grief. I write a lot about loss. And I'm always looking at what's not loss as well. So if I'm looking at joy, I want to look at grief. If I'm looking at grief, I want to look at joy. So I think it's just a thing where I want to be aware of going back and forth between those. And so I don't think, oh, I'm writing a joyful poem. That would probably make me feel really stuck. I don't think I could do that on purpose very well. But I think just I'm going to write about anything, and I'm going to put in as many opposites, contradictions, and all of that as I can. And that's kind of how I hold it. I go, the poem is a bag. It's a grab bag of all the things. And so I just want to get as much in the grab bag as I can.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa, for that wonderful first question. We have a question in the chat. Oh, and this goes like right to the commerce of poetry. What is the most prestigious poetry magazine you've been published in? And what is the most money you've been paid for a poem?
I love this. It's funny because I used to teach a little living room kind of class, and I remember teaching about the fireside poets. And one of them, those guys who all had three names. And I'm trying to think which one of them it was, and it'll pop into my head later, I'm sure. But he sold a poem to a magazine for thousands of dollars in the late 1800s.
Wow.
And so to convert that into modern currency was so fun. It was like he made hundreds of thousands of dollars from a poem. I have not yet hit that mark, I can tell you. But a hospital did ask me to write a poem, and they, offered me, I think it was $3,000, and I was shocked. but it was a whole big institution. It was like an installation.
Right.
Anyway, that's my answer to that. I don't know about prestigious places. That changes all the time. I wouldn't know how to assess.
What was your favorite place you've been published in? How about that? Because sometimes, like a first publication can mean a lot, or getting something you've struggled with, or like getting your poem on a bus, or
Oh, great. Stuff like that. I'll have to think about it. So
Okay.
I'll add it to Lana and see if I can think of something.
Lana, how about you?
Well, I want to say that every art has its hierarchy, and there's people that win Guggenheims, and there's people that get all kinds of awards. But I think it's really important for artists and poets of every kind to really embrace what makes them happy in the art and with the art, and not think about that. For me, the best journals I've been published in are the ones I love to read, are the ones whose poetry feeds me, Passager for people over 50. I love their journal. I absolutely love it. I read it cover to cover. There's The Sun. I've never been in, but I love The Sun. So I would love to be in there. Journals that really feed me as a poet is what I want to be in. And as far as money, it's great to be paid for a poem, but it's better to be paid with human connection. The best payment I ever received for a poem was, I was at a reading in Seattle, and some of you know Third Place Books in Seattle. I was at a reading. I was new to Seattle, new to the poetry scene, and it was a featured reading with an open mic. And it probably had been my, I don't know, 7th or 9th time there. And I finally got up the nerve to read a poem in the open mic. And it took a lot for me to do that. And I got up and I read a poem in the open mic, and they had the chairs like sitting, a certain way. And I was just sitting kind of close to the front. I was like maybe in the second row. And I had read my poem. I sat down, and kind of a couple minutes later, a note drops in front of me. And it said, hearing your poem made me want to write again. And that's the best thing that's ever happened to me as a poet, ever, and that's the highest payment I've ever received.
That's a good
I love
payment.
that. I love that. That is really the biggest stuff, isn't it? It's when somebody says, this really changed me, or it really helped me, or even it made me laugh. But it's when you can tell that not only did it alter you in some way writing it, because I'm sure to have that response, you wrote something that altered you in some way, that changed your heart, and then somebody else catches that. That's contagious. That's so powerful.
That's a beautiful story. I've always said, money's just one way to be rich,
Yeah.
It's definitely a fun way. We've got another question from Sue Ann. I'm going to bring her in because she has her hand up. Hi, Sue Ann. You want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm very excited because this is 2 nights in a row that I get to see you, Danusha and Lana. Thank you. And so I want to first just thank you, Danusha, for the course you did on, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was when you introduced the different kinds of poetry, and when you talked about bards of the everyday. And it was like, for the first time in my journey, it was like I could just breathe into, that's how I write, and I don't have to strive for something that isn't my voice. And so I will be eternally grateful to you for that. And my question is for you, Lana. I've got 3 of your books sitting on my desk here, and your covers are just so stunning. And so I really want to know what do you do? How do you work with publishers to get these stunning covers? What is your artistic process? Because I'm just stunned by them.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I can't take credit for the covers, but I can say that I'm inspired by art. And, I'm kind of I was a wannabe artist. My brother, who was older than me, could just take up a piece of paper and take up any kind of writing implement, didn't matter whether it was pastel or pen and pencil, and he could render the world through his eyes onto the page with no training whatsoever. And I was so envious of that. I wanted to be a visual artist as well. But I've always been inspired by visual art, always, always, always. And the paintings that it's like the journals I want to be in. The paintings that move me are the ones I hope for on my book covers. And so there's a local artist here in Oregon, Deborah DeWitt, whose art is inexpensive enough that I can collect it a little bit. I have 4 of her paintings now. I've been over the years, and one of hers graces the cover. And I was, I reached out to her, and she said yes. And that's the reason I have that. And it's actually on the wall beside me in front of my desk here where I can look at it every day. And yes, I reached out to another Andrea Couch, and through her art gallery was able to secure the rights. And I've always been a lover of Chagall, and Chagall is in public domain, but it's a Chagall that no one ever gets to see because it's in a museum in Russia. And the only way I discovered it was on a postcard once. A long time ago. And I fell in love with that painting that I've never seen. But then there's a company, it's back behind me on the wall, that reproduces art. And so I have a reproduction Chagall.
Great.
And I just, and I've been lucky enough to work with several presses that are, generous enough to say, what would you like on the cover? But not all presses do. Not all presses do. My first 2 books did not ask me what I wanted on the cover.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so
That's
much.
a great question. And this is Lana's newest book, if anyone hasn't seen it. Danusha, you're working with this was your first time with Copper Canyon. How was your cover art chosen?
It was, I sent them some different images that I liked. And it was pretty straightforward. I have never had, gosh, I was looking at Lana's covers. They're amazing.
They are beautiful.
They're so beautiful. I've never had an intricate cover. I tend to just go kind of graphic. And maybe it's because my mom was a biologist. I wanted this microscopic image of a blade of grass because look how it has blades on it. And that was really interesting to me because the book deals in both kinds of blades, the knife and the leaf of grass, as Whitman would have said. And so it was pretty straightforward. We just went back and forth about the details of it.
Great. Well, that's what I thought that's what it was when I saw it, but I love because it looks like a pattern. I love the close up when you microscope something, how nature becomes its own work of art. So beautiful choice.
Yeah, it's about paying attention, it seems like, your cover. It's about the beauty of attention.
Looking closely, I guess. We want to look at things different ways, right? That's the goal or intention in writing, I think, is to look at things enough ways that we allow that looking to change us in some way.
Well, we are on the hour. Did either of you, both of you, do you want to end with something for everyone? And everyone who came here, please, I have the links to their books in the chat. And the best way you can support your favorite poets or share their books, buy their books, and give their books as gifts. We're coming into that season. So Danusha and Lana, do you want to end with some words or another poem or anything?
Gosh, I'm just enjoying looking at the chat. It's so nice to see the hellos and things in there.
I will send you a copy of it.
Okay.
You can read it. You got lots of love in the chat.
This was a pleasure. Thank you all for being a lovely place to land for all the words that were shared tonight. And it's just a pleasure to read with you, even at these distances. Really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Lana, do you want to have close?
Oh, I just want to say thank you as well. And what a pleasure it is to be here and read for Two Sylvias and read amongst friends and new friends and read with the amazing Danusha. And it's just like a dream come true for me. And one last plug for this book, Necessary Light by Patricia Fargnoli, which is still in print, won the May Sarton Award. And for those of you who may be like me, a little bit silver-haired, her first collection published at age 61. There's always time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I remember that. I was actually cleaning out my bookshelves and I stumbled upon it and started reading it again. And Patricia Fargnoli, for anyone who hasn't heard of her, she was a gift to the poetry world. Thank you both so much for this incredible reading. I am also very excited that I'll get to see you again, Lana, in 2025, Danusha on Thursday for your classes for Two Sylvias Weekly Muse. And thank you all for joining us. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll be your Sylvia Plath. I'll be your Sylvia Plath. And I'll find a reason to lay here all season. Let the cigarette gardens grow. And yes, I'll take you to France. We'll get fucked up on gin, and we'll dance, and we'll dance. I'll be your Sylvia Plath. I'll be your Sylvia Plath. I'll find you your paint peeling bowl. I'm always trying to dive in surprise that I float. Say the word and I'll find you your pills. I once knew the codes, but my mind's falling ill. I'll be your Sylvia Plath. I'll be your Sylvia